Hello and welcome to Nanopod, a podcast dedicated to the fantastic manga written by A. Yazawa. I'm Crystal, and I'm joined by my best girl Kirsten as we dissect this manga, discussing everything from the emotions, the cultural impact, as well as any headcanons that might be floating around in our brains. With this podcast, we hope to preserve a shoujo staple that sadly hasn't been talked about in a very long time. So come with us. We're waiting for you in apartment 707. Hey guys, and welcome to Nanopod. This is my third episode, kind of doing this all by myself. I'm not gonna change the intro though. I'm just not gonna do that. It started out that way. I'm gonna finish it out that way. At this point, it's dedication to Melissa, who cannot be with me because of school. But anyway, yes. So we are on chapter 53 here, and we've got narration over what looks like an omelet, with a little heart on it in ketchup. It says, Sunday, November 11th, Takumi and I, who couldn't get married, ate breakfast facing each other, laughing that we were playing make-believe newlyweds. I didn't think it was so bad. And now it's Genpai, and he's saying, oh no, not another hangover. Don't you think you're going a little crazy with the drinking? I guess I can't lecture you about yesterday because I was drinking with you. And Nana says, Genpai, and he's still talking. And he's like, but I have to tell the groupies to stop boozing us up. And then Nana sits down on the bed with a plop, and she says, I can give written permission and send that to the agency. Have them look up my legal domicile and get a copy of my family register. And Genpai is like, what? And she looks up at him and says, so I'll have that by the time we get back to Tokyo. Then we can go register our marriage right away. And Genpai just kind of takes a pause as he's handed her the aspirin for her head. And he's like, sure, but why all of a sudden? Did something happen with you and Ren? And she said, we can't even see each other. What could happen? And then he sits down on the bed, and he's like, well, yeah, but you were so reluctant before. What changed? And she said, I wasn't worried about getting married. I just didn't want people to see my official documents and stuff. And he says, okay, sure, but... And then she says, but I have to come clean and do things right. At least more so than before. And Genpai just looks at her. And now we have the think boxes and a scene change, and it says, Takumi always makes fun of the pictures I drew on the omelets with the ketchup, but it makes cooking every morning more fun. Little things like that make me happy. And I still believe this is the same day. I do believe that timestamp we have is still November 11th, 2001. And it's Asami, and she's like, you're not coming back to Tokyo till the 18th? How am I gonna make it? That's still a week away. I'll email you every day, so you better write back. Thanks to you, my cell phone's working again. The power of love? ? And he says, it wasn't broken. You have to turn it on to make it work. Duh. And she's like, maybe I just couldn't get it to turn on. And he says, stranger things have been known to happen. Like when you're on tour. And I'm like, okay, but like she had thrown her phone, and probably broke it. And then she's looking at her phone and like a little ghost is coming out of it. And she looks very shocked. And there's a ding-dong, and Nobu sets his cup of tea down with a clack. And now we've got the think boxes again, and it says, Takumi can never decide what tie to wear, so I always pick it out for him. It makes me feel like I'm part of his workday, and a little less lonely. And the ding dong was Yasu and Miyu, and they are outside. And now Nobu and Asami are leaving the hotel, and it looks like he's being very affectionate. He's like touching the top of her head and maybe kissing her forehead. And now we're down in the executive front floor, or executive floor front. And we still have the think boxes, and it says, and I felt like it didn't matter whether we got officially married or not. And the desk clerk says, good morning, and Genpai says, yes, I need to send this document to Tokyo as soon as possible. And then she says, it'll arrive at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, is that all right? And now we have Shin, and he's talking to Nana, and says, good morning, Nana, did you sleep all right? And she sits down with a plunk, and she's kind of looking out the window and smoking her cigarette, and she's not saying anything. And someone says, good morning, and Shin's reading. He's looking at Nana, and he's like reading the Times Sports. Well, he's probably not reading it, it's just a newspaper, but anyway. Nobu says, good morning. And Genpai is like, wow, everyone's on time today. I'm impressed, Heart. And then Shin turns around and says, good morning. And Nobu says, hey, you're reading an English newspaper again. Cool, give me that. And Shin says, because I have a hard time with the kanji in the Japanese papers. Because remember, he's half Japanese and half American. So I do believe that English is his first language. And then Yasu just kind of pats him on the head, and he's like, that's why you should read them and try to learn. And Shin's like, hey, I can't understand anything. He's like, that boring pulp porn's enough learning for me. And then Nobu is just also sitting down now with a paper, and he says, but I think the Married Woman Next Door series is great. It's hilarious. Don't you love Katoni? And then Yasu sits down with a plunk, and then Shin says, oh yeah, she acts a lot like Yuri, and looks like her too. And then Nobu's like, you really think so? With a sweat drop. And then there's a flick of a lighter as Yasu lights his cigarette. And Nana hasn't said anything this whole time. And he looks at Nana, she's looking out the window, and he says, Nana, and she gives him the side eye. And he says, you alright? And she says, why? I don't care who you hook up with. And then he's like, actually, I was asking about your hangover. And then there's like this pause, and now she's like stress blushing because that's not what he was asking. And she's like, I'm totally fine. And he kind of has like this, okay, look on his face. And now we have a scene change, and there's a vroom of an airplane. And I do believe this is Rira. She's got all her hair tucked under her hat, and she says, sigh, good thing we caught this flight. We're barely going to make it back in time for band biz. There's that band biz thing again. And Ren says, I'm sorry. I made you go out there and took the bed. How rude. And she said, no, I had a great time, Heart. Going to see the old juvie warehouse really brought back memories. But it's so different now. And he says, who are you calling a JD? JD, juvenile delinquent. You didn't go there enough to have memories. And she said, once was enough, Heart. Something important happened there that night. And Ren looks kind of sly, and he's like, oh, is that when Baldy first kissed you? And now she's got the sweat drop, like, oh no, he guessed. And then, now she's got all the sweat drops. And she's like, how do you know? I'm surprised Yasu said anything. And he said, you're the one who blabbed about it. The next day you came to practice all excited. And then we have a flashback. And it's Rira, and she's got like all these flowers around her and her blush lines, and she's like, "Hey, Yasu, kiss me. What do I do?" And like Ren looks really annoyed, and he's like, well, goody for you." And then she's like, "No way. I don't remember that at all. Ouch." And he says, "I remember it all too well. It's the only time in my life I didn't get the girl." And she looks at him with a sweat bead, and she's like, "What?" And then he has like sad, almost like sad eyes here, and he's like, "Well, Yasu always stood back and let me have whatever I wanted ever since we were kids, but he wouldn't let me have you, and it's the only time that's happened." And Rira's just looking at him, like she's taking it in. And he says, "Obviously he was so in love with you." And she looks out the window and says, "And now I understand, finally." And there's a vroom as a plane is flying along, and she says, "Hey, Ren, you and I are bandmates and friends, right?" And he looks over at her with kind of like this, "Where's this going?" And she says, "I gave up everything that was important to me. Moved to Tokyo and bet my life on Trap Nest." And he has this look in his eyes like, "Oh, same." And then she's like, "This trip reminded me of that. We have to keep our eyes on the prize." And he looks over at her and he just smiles very gently. And we're back in the think boxes and a scene change. And it says, "That night, Takumi didn't come home 'cause of work," he said. "He has no intention of giving up his Akasaka apartment. But then I can't let go of apartment 707 either." To which, like, I get the feeling that the Akasaka apartment might be a place where Takumi probably meets up with other girls. And 707 is not a bang pad. You know what I mean? So like it's not the same. And then it says, "So I guess in that way we were on the same page." And now there's a stomp and of a little rocking horseshoe. And it is November the 12th at 12:53, and there's a beep of a phone. And it is Misato, except, Misato going under a different name now with her not blonde hair and her different wig, the whole thing. And she's on the phone, and it says, "Hello, Shikai Corporation." And she says, "Yes, this is Tsuki. I got Nana's certificate of residence at Town Hall." And the paper says, "Certificate of Residence, Chofu Town Hall, Head of Household, Nana Osaki, Tamagawa H. Chom 25-7. And it says, "And I can email her legal domicile certificate." And now we have another scene change. And it's Hachi. And she says, "Hey, do you remember Masato?" And I do believe she's back in Jackson's Hole, because this is the the waiter whose name we can't remember, but Melissa just called him Jackson. So here we go, until someone says his name. And he says, "Ah, the blonde girl with ringlet curls?" And she says, "I'm impressed, Koichi Sato," that's his name. "I only brought her here once or twice last summer. You're the ultimate role model bartender." And he says, "Oh, she was here more than that. She came in alone sometimes." And Hachi's like, "Really?" "Well, I was at work during the day, so she was alone a lot. So she came here. That's weird." And he said, "So what happened to Masato? No matter what, nothing surprises me anymore." And she's like, "I hadn't heard from her in a while, so I was wondering how she's doing. Then she called just this morning. She quit high school and got a job here, so I guess she ran away from home and came to Tokyo. And Koichi's like, what? And now Nana's got like a sweat bead and like these little blush lines and is like, yeah, I was surprised too. She gets an hour lunch break, so she asked me to meet her here at Jackson. And he's like, so she works around here? She's like, I don't know. It's a mystery. She seems to keep busy, and she said she'll give me the details when we meet. And here I am with nothing to do. And then there's a ding ding, and Koichi says, hi, welcome to Jackson. And it's Masato in her super cute Vivienne Westwood attire. And Koichi and Nana are both looking at her like, whoa, they have like big, like, what the fuck eyes. And here comes Masato, and she's like, Hachiko, Mr. Sato, long time no see. Eek! Heart. And he's like, Masato? And Hachi's like, what happened to your hair? And she says, oh, I changed it for my job interview. Did you, Masato? Did you really? And Koichi's like, wow, you're serious. And she said, but then I found out the company isn't very strict about things like that, so I'm back to wearing my little get-ups, heart. And Hachi's like, but you look even more radical now. Kids these days. And Masato, not Masato, just laughs. And then this is like clearly later, and they're just sitting and having their lunch. And now both Koichi and Hachi are like, what? Shikai Corporation? And he's like, what's that? Some big company? And Nana, or Hachi Nana, is like, that's Blast's agency. And Masato's like, I'll be the band's personal assistant, doing a little of this and a little of that. I think she did this on purpose. She's so stealthy. And he says, oh, wow, good for you. Did Blast help you get the job? And she says, no way, I couldn't ask them to do something like that. And he's like, oh, so you just went there and applied on your own? Wow. And Hachi's like, congratulations, Blast must be psyched to have you. And she's like, well, they're on tour right now, so I don't think they know yet. And Hachi's like, oh, so it'll be a big surprise when they get back. Then I'll keep it under wraps, heart. And then someone must have come in because Koichi's like, hello, welcome. And now Masato is looking down and she's looking kind of sad. And she's like, I don't know if they're going to like it. And Hachi's like, why not? Of course they will. And Masato says, but I'm worried that it'll be weird for them to have a friend be their personal assistant. And Hachi's like, I'm sure it's fine. It's better to have someone they know take care of them. I'm really impressed with your initiative, Masato. It's amazing. More like her sneaky. But they don't know that. Masato says, oh, I was just applying for a job. Actually, I was skipping school too much, so my parents told me to quit because they were embarrassed. I'd have to repeat a year. I know you helped me with my homework. Sorry to let you down. And Hachi's like, you quit because they were embarrassed? That's horrible. And she says, well, but it's my fault. So that made the home life even more uncomfortable. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And now Hachi looks... it's almost like a combination of like sad, worried, and she's thinking, oh, so it wasn't because she was mad at me that she didn't keep in touch. Why do I always make every situation about me? Well, that's very mature of you, Hachi. And Masato says, but the president of Shikai doesn't care about diplomas or resumes. He liked my energy and ambition. I didn't think I'd get the job. I was so happy I almost cried. And now Hachi's got like very proud, almost like mother smile on her face. And then she's like, it's 'cause you're much more mature than the average grown-up. You're always so polite, Heart. And Masato's like, I'm not so sure about that. They have me doing various things right now, but a lot of it I don't understand, so I get in trouble every day. But I'm giving it my all. Blast has always supported me, so now it's my turn to support Blast. And Nana's like got her eyes closed like, mm-hmm. And now we have a scene change. What is this guy? Hiroshi Takada, 45. He's a branch manager at Terminal Records, Sapporo branch. And Nana's put on her best, like, brown-nosing face because she's got all of the little, like, flowers around her. And she's like, no, thank you for meeting with us today, Heart. We're working really hard, and we thank you for your support. And then everyone's like, thank you for your support. And Yasu is making Shin bow. It's always doing that to somebody. And now there's, I don't know, like some kind of an assistant. Looks like he's wearing an apron. He's like, you can go out this way. I'll take you. And Nobu's like, thank you. And Genpai's like, Nana, I got an email from the agency. And she's like, what is it? What'd I do? And he says, your legal domicile. A copy of your family register will arrive this week. And she's got the dots. Like, okay. And then she takes the phone to kind of look at it. And then hands it back to Genpai, and she's like, alright, thanks. And he's like, shouldn't you write it down? And she's like, don't worry. I can remember my grandma's address. I think this is very triggering for her, to be honest with you. And now we kind of have a scene change because they're in the car. And let's see. There's a beep and a send email from, I don't know who's in the back there. It could be Nobu. Could be Nobu doing that. And I think it's Genpai. He's saying, okay, now we're going to split up. Nana and Yasu, you're going to Morioka, sorry, with me. Nobu and Shin, you're going to Niigata with Mr. Kawano. Alright. And it looks like Shin is reading something called Terminal Records, and there's a article in there with Rira on it. And Nana says, no, why do I have to go with Baldy? We're not a comedy team. She is still so upset with him for trying to have a life outside of her. It's not good. It is not a good look, Nana. And Shin says, and I'm sick of seeing Nobu's face. Enough already. And Nobu says the evil fox met us in Hokkaido just for the crab, right? On Gaia's dime even. And Yasu is just listening to all this, and he's got a sweat drop with all the dots like, oh my god, okay, the kids, they all have opinions. And Genpai, being clearly the other parent in the car, is like, don't get bratty, we're short-staffed, so he came to help out, even though he's really busy himself. But you might be right about the crab. And then Shin's like, but now we got a new lady personal assistant, right? Mai Suzuki. I hear she's cute, Heart. And Nobu's like, yeah, I heard it from all the dorm rooms. Let's have Mai come along too, Heart. And Genpai says, bringing a fresh hire on the road halfway through tour is a bad idea. And I have my doubts that a young girl can really do the work. We need a cute young boy. Genpai, please don't. Don't be a creep. Like, the only reason you want... Okay. This might not be PC to say, but he just wants a cute young boy because he's gay. And I don't like it. I don't like it. It feels a little predatory. And now we're back to Jackson Hole. And the girls are leaving. And Masato's like, I'm going to the train station. Where are you going, Hachiko? And she says, I'm going to do some cleanup at apartment 707, then go home. But I'll walk you to the station, Heart. And she says, sorry for dragging you into this. I figured you broke up with Nobu by the way everyone was acting, but I had no idea about anything after that. And she says, oh no, I'm sorry, I should have told you. It looks like she kind of explained it to her, which, that's good. And then Masato says, but Shirogane is really nice. It'll be a good place to raise your kid. And she says, yeah, that was our first priority when we looked for the place. And Masato says, I'm glad you look happy. Your fiancé must be a good man, Heart. And Hachi says, well, he's high maintenance. And Masato's like, oh, really? And then Hachi's like, so I won't be able to have you over much. But let's go shopping and out to eat together sometime, Heart. The smile she's giving is very, forced. But that's okay because Masato also gives her a forced smile back. And then we have the think boxes, and they say, when I say that, no one asks any more questions. I was starting to learn how to deal with people. Not that I don't trust Masato. I'm sorry. And then Masato says, I'll call you when I get some free time. And Hachi says, yeah, do, Heart. Good luck with your new job. And then Masato's running away in her little rocking horse shoes with a stomp. And Hachi's looking after her, looking very sad. Sadness, well, I guess she's wistful in this moment. Because she's looking at the shoes, and she's, sporting the same outfits as Nana, even wearing the same shoes. Masato was making her dreams come true. I mean, yeah, but, it's also creepy, Hachi. You just don't see it. And she's thinking, even if she regrets chopping off her blonde ringlets, even if her new salary can't afford her the Vivian she so craves, I was jealous. 'Cause I was left behind. In the end, it was just me. Which, I get that, Hachi. That's the worst feeling in the world, being left behind. Or being left out. That sucks. And now she's in apartment 707, and she's just looking out the window out at the ocean. And she's still thinking, but even though I can't rock the heels I love and blast and I grow farther apart, I have something of my own to cherish. I don't need to be jealous of others. And I'm not sure if she's talking about apartment 707 or if she's talking about the baby. Could be both. It says, what people consider precious is different for everybody. And now we have a scene change to Hotel K. Morioka. And there's a, P for parking. And I do believe this is one of our mosquitoes. And he's hacking and coughing and wheezing. And he's wearing a mask because he's better than us. And then the person in the car with him, the other mosquito, is like, you all right, Karada? Don't give me that cold. And then the other guy coughs. And he's like, no wonder you got sick. You're crazy enough to follow them all the way out there by yourself. I changed my mind about you. I didn't think you took your work seriously. And Karada says, but no matter how hard I work, the pay's always the same. It's not fair. I shouldn't be a contractor. Cough. And this other guy says, true that. And then Karada says, but when I got that exclusive, Nana and Ren shot, it really felt like I'd achieved something. And the other guy says, see? And he's like, Karada says, people made such a big deal over that one photo I'd taken. And suddenly, everything got more fun. This is why these are my least favorite characters. I know everyone is like, oh, the main cast, I have so many people that I hate. And I'm like, I hate these people because they're parasitic and terrible. And they're the reason for so many bad things that happen. It's just, And I know they have to do it because they have to have jobs and they have to have money, but they're just sleazy and I just don't like it. This guy looks over at him like, yeah, I also like stirring up trouble. And then there's a room, and then they look up, and he's like, they're here, and he puts a cigarette out in a um, like a pop can. And then there's a stomp of a rocking horseshoe, and then this greasy motherfucker gets out, and he's like, Nana, and there's a click of the camera, and he's like, way to go. Can we talk to you for a second? And there's a flick flash click, and Nana has the dots, and she's looking real mad. And then Genpai gets out of the car with a slam and says, what do you want? No photos without permission. If you want an interview, you'll have to go through our agency. And the other mosquito was like, oh, excuse me. I'm Miyaki from Search. Thanks for the in. And Genpai's like, huh? Oh, you're that guy. And Nana, still looking real mad, is like, how can you even show your face around here? And Yasu's like, Nana. And she's like, you wrote about Yasu, what you wrote about Yasu was all lies, and you know it. Just 'cause Yasu punched you. And he's like, what? Did I get something wrong in there? I'm sorry. Just tell me what, and we'll print a correction. And now Yasu's fully stepped in front of Nana, and he says, oh no, you worked too hard to dig all that dirt. It's impressive. And now he's handing Yasu a bag. And he says, ain't it, Heart? And it wasn't easy. I did it for the band, and as a congratulations for Nana's engagement, Heart. He hands him the bag. And Genpai's looking at him like, you fucking slime ball. And Yasu's like, well then, thanks a lot. And Nana's got all the angry ticks. And then this guy with like all the crocodile tears is like, oh, please wait. Can we talk to Nana for just a few minutes? That's why we're here. And Genpai's like, get an appointment and then we'll talk. Okay. I need to pause for a second and kind of make a note of the fact, we might have noted this in other episodes, but I really want to put it here. It was normal for the paparazzi to be this terrible back in the early aughts. We didn't have laws around this type of shit for celebrities for a really long time. And I blame Paris Hilton. Because she actively went outside for the express purpose of having her picture taken. And, you know, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but whereas she loved to be followed around by the paparazzi, they also really loved to follow around Britney Spears, and they just didn't give that woman any peace. So, I blame her for that. And I know that, like, Paris Hilton doesn't necessarily exist in the Nana Yazawa-verse, but she kind of does because this is kind of quote-unquote real life, so, I'm still blaming Paris Hilton for this moment. Anyway, these guys, again, still buzzing around, are like, then just one thing. What's taking you and Ren so long to get married? And you don't even have a place together. Isn't that kind of weird? And Nana's thinking, what jackasses? And then she turns around super angry and is like, it's 'cause we're too busy avoiding creeps like you. You should know from stalking us nonstop. And then this fucking greasy guy is like, all right, thank you very much. And he bows. And he looks up with kind of like this look on his face. And I'm like, you know this guy is sleazy because his hairline's receding. You know what I mean? Just a scuzzy fucking man. Literally the whole, take off your ball cap, let's see that hairline, motherfucker. And now we're scene changing into Weekly Search editorial department. And Greasy Mosquito Man is like on the phone with someone who's like, hey, it's that guy, receding hairline guy. And he's like, hey, it's Miyaki. we've confirmed that Nana and Ren are not yet officially married. And he's like, good, thank you. And then more sleazy guy says, Kudo. This guy looks up. He's like, Mr. Yokohama said you have to call Trapnest's agency to confirm the facts. We don't want Narita busting in to complain again. And this is Yoshiyuki Arai, 47. Divorced twice. I wonder why. Assistant editor for Weekly Search. And Kudo, Greasy Mosquito Man, is like, what the... Why should we care about their idiot agency president? Don't worry about it. And the other guy's like, well, Narita's tight with a lot of people in high places, so Mr. Yokohama said to tread lightly. And Greasy Mosquito Guy is like, why should I listen to an editor who's on vacation at a time like this? Like he needs another vacation. He should just move to the southern islands permanently. And the other guy's like, look, if you keep fighting with management here, they're going to transfer you to get you out of the way. And I'm your boss too, you know. You might be older than me, but... And then he's walking away, and Greasy Mosquito Man's got just angry face with the dots. And the other guy stomps away. And then he's thinking, God, it sucks working under people. Oh no, he says that out loud. Well, you suck for being the whole person that you are, sir. And now we kind of have a scene change, and oh boy, I don't remember her name, but she's basically the handler for Rira. Cute girl with the glasses. And she's like, hello, Cookie Music. Well, hello there, Heart. And it's Greasy Mosquito Guy, and he's like, this is Kudo, entertainment editor of Weekly Search. I'd like to talk to President Narita. And now, you know, scene change over to apartment 302. And it's Hachi with the blush lines. And she's like, welcome home, honey, Heart. And he's like, welcome home, with a smile. And there's a ring of his phone. And he's like just in the process of leaning down to kiss her. And he answers his phone. And it's Narita. And he's like, Takumi, you have to get over here right now. And then he hangs up on him. And Hachi's still got her lips pursed, like, kiss me. And then Takumi's like, he's got this face, and he turns around, and he's like, sorry, gotta go. And her heart is, like, she's got a little broken heart above her head, and she's like, no! To which, same. And also, Takumi, you could give her one kiss before you leave. Just one, okay? Like, hear me out. Don't be that fucking guy. And now we have a scene change. And it's Yasu. And he's like, hey, Heart, Junmai Shu. Well, they sure know what I like. And Nano's back there with, like, her hair is, like, just up in such a way that it looks like she's got devil horns. And she says, I refuse to drink anything Search gave us. And, Yasu was like, come on, man, don't blame the sake. It's part of their job anyway. And I'm loving these Japanese-themed rooms. And she's like, well, they'll never break me. I'll never forgive them. And she picks up this, like, package with a bow on it. And she's like, what is this anyway? A bomb or something? And Yasu says that they said it's an engagement gift for you. And she's like, sounds scary. So scary, I want to know what's in there. He says, then I'll open it for you. And she's like, watch out. What if it explodes when you open it? And he said, then get out of the way. And she's like, oh, so are you saying you'd die for me? What would little Miyu think about that? And Yasu just doesn't say anything. And Nana is looking at him in a myriad of interpretations here. I think maybe, I don't think she regrets what she said, but the smile that Yasu has is almost like like when he hears Miyu's name, he thinks of her and it makes him happy. So he's just kind of got like this Miyu, yeah, you know. And Nana doesn't like it, but not like in an angry way, but like in a she's losing Yasu. She's losing the only other sure thing that she's felt certain about the entire time. This present thingy says, "Congratulations, Miss Nana Osaki," on it, and there's like a rip as he opens it, and Nana says, "Pow," really loudly. And then he's like, "God damn it, you're what's scary around here." And then she's just giggling, and now she kind of does have devil horns above her head. And then she looks down on the inside of the present thing, and it is a framed photo of Rira and Ren while they were at the beach together. And it was when Rira was hugging him because he was just feeling very, very down. And Nana's eyes go very wide. And then Yasu notices what's in there. And then he clamps a hand over Nana's eyes. But then he has the dot dot dots because he can tell that she's already seen it. And now he kind of pulls her into a hug and he says, "What scumbags. I'll never forgive them for this." And Nana is crying. And then we have a narration that says, "Hey Nana, is there anything that remains precious in your heart? You left your red love jacket behind, your Sex Pistols records, your vintage guitar, everything. And where are you now?" And the last shot here is of Narika and Takumi. And they've been sent email pictures of Ren and Rira while they were at the beach. And Takumi's just kind of got this look on his face like, shit, you know. And this is the end of the chapter. So, the one thing that I do want to say about this whole thing, I mean, again, I really, really, really hate the paparazzi because Nana is insecure. Nana is not confident in her relationship with Ren, has not been confident in her relationship with Ren since they broke up, after he left her to go be a guitarist for Trap Nest, which I'm still mad at him about. You know, I don't think that I will ever stop being upset with Ren for that because that's where everything went wrong. For Nana O, at least. It's just, if he, I mean, he knew, you know, that was going to break her. But he did it anyway. And again, it's still very strange to me that he did it because Ren doesn't want to be a rock star. Or, I mean, he does, kind of, but he can't handle the pressure. It's why he's a drug addict. But realistically, there was nothing else he was going to be able to do with his life. But, and this is just me personally, I don't think Melissa would agree with me, but I think that they might have been okay if Ren had chosen Nana. And that's really the thing about relationships. And this, again, is me personally. You have to choose your partner, especially if you know that that partner is insecure. And I know that sounds like really unhealthy, right? Probably because on some level it is, but it's like, okay, personal spill for me. I am not a super confident person. And I have dated a lot of men in the past that made it very clear that I was not a priority. I was an option. I was an option in a sea of options. And living through that, I understand exactly how Nana feels. The betrayal, or at the very least to her, what seems like a betrayal, would hurt. And not being confident because Ren did leave. Every man in her life who decides that they are going to choose somebody else over her, it is disastrous. It just feels like the worst thing in the world. I'm not exactly sure why Search did this to her, except for the fact that they suck. But it's just the real villains. They're the real villains in this story, to me. Everyone says it's Takumi. It's not Takumi. He's an irritant, but he's not the real villain. So yeah, it's all very completely understandable. And in this moment, Nana knows that she's losing Yasu, and now will believe that she's losing Ren. Because she already felt that way when Ren picked Rira over her. Except, he didn't pick Rira, he just picked another band. But to Nana, it's like he chose another woman. And that is extremely hurtful. Again, having lived through it myself. I am lucky now that I have somebody who chooses me every time. That security is something that I need as an individual to feel safe. And he gives that to me. And it's lovely. And I guess, some people could make a case about, well, different people in different relationships need different things. Yeah, of course they do. But feeling safe and secure is at the top of the list, no matter what flavor that takes. So that's all I wanted to say about that. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining me for this these excess episodes that I'm putting out this month. I'm doing this because I'm trying to complete some of these projects that I've had scattered about this place. So I'm hoping to be able to finish this up. And yeah, making the transition into making my my Nanopod episodes, the go-betweens, in between all of the other stuff that I record on here. I know that we still have our socials up. Probably don't need to email us anymore because I cannot access the email, and I'm fairly certain that Melissa is no longer checking that particular email, for lack of a better anything. So yeah, just you'll see me on here. You'll see me on here finishing up this podcast because I can't post it on the wherever the podcasts are podded place either because I can't get into the email. So anyway, guys, thank you for joining me, and I will see you all in the next one. Good night.